Welcome to the Exploress, time traveling through history, one era at a time. I'm Kate Armstrong. Hey there, Queen! I'm currently off on maternity leave, but I've decided to pull some special bonus episodes out of the Patreon vault during September for all my listeners to enjoy. This one's going to take us back to our season on the 1920s to meet a group of sticky-fingered bandits who became England's most notorious thieves. Don't you worry, patrons. You're also about to get a brand new bonus episode, so keep your ears peeled. Now, grab your biggest fur coat and make sure it has deep pockets. Let's go traveling. Newspapers first spoke of this all-female crime ring way back in 1873, but police records mention them as far back as the late 1700s. They call Southwark, a neighborhood south of the Thames, their territory, and operate near the Elephant and Castle pub, which is how some say they earn their name. But Billy Hill, a gang member himself, wrote an autobiography in which he said of his thieving sister, Maggie Hill, "I called her Babyface, the queen of the 40 elephants, because when she hid the gear she nicked from the shops about her person, she often looked like the queen of 40 elephants. It's something of an inside joke, because the girls in the gang all say they look a little bit like elephants when they saunter out of a shop loaded with goods under their skirts. The 40 elephants specialize in the subtle art of shoplifting. Between the 1870s and 1950s, they operate the largest shoplifting operation Britain has ever seen. They were the cleverest shoplifters in the country, one police officer said of them, and their associates regarded them as the most expert thieves in the world. These women are referred to as hoisters, shoplifters who use clever disguises and cool cunning to steal and fence stolen goods. Many will wear fancy clothes into shops, appearing as fine ladies with money to burn, only to swindle the shop's unsuspecting owner. For example, in 1897, a teenage girl and an older woman calling herself Madame Schneider swanned into a London furrier's shop. The older one purported to be a dressmaker, well-versed in the wares she was handling, while the younger posed as her high-class employer and clearly looked enough the part to be taken at her word. They made a great show of placing an order, and meanwhile managed to smuggle out 2 sealskin capes while they were at it. Later, when police searched their apartments, they found a treasure hoard: corsets, jewelry, and expensive petticoats galore. Many of the women who turned to shoplifting in this era work in the garment trade, as laundresses and dressmakers and factory workers. All low-paid work that gives them some knowledge of the wares they're stealing. And most of these women don't feel guilty about their pilfering either. Lillian Wiles, one of England's first lady coppers, said that, "A great number of the women who take up crime as a profession are by no means overwhelmed by the enormity of their wickedness. Many, indeed, are exceedingly proud of their powers in that field." But why steal at all? Many of the 40 elephants aren't full-time criminals. Many have full-time jobs, from domestic staff to garment factory workers and sales clerks, and they earn just 18 to 20 shillings a week. In other words, they're doing it pretty tough. And while they dream of being just as stylish as the mannequins in the shop windows they pass every morning, nice clothes are just too expensive. It isn't easy for a young, low-paid woman to be surrounded by fine things and not want to grab some for herself. "There's not a lot of room in the crooked game for a woman who doesn't want to go regularly to work, like the mugs who punch a clock every morning," explained one retired hoister. "She either hustles for a living and keeps some layabout as a ponce, or she becomes a hoister. It's not a bad life if you must be crooked." The 40 elephants are well organized, operating in tight-knit clusters across the country, and they're smart about their methods. They steal jewels from countertops, replacing them with fake ones, and hide their treasures under hats or tucked into their hair. When London starts getting wise to them, they head out to Brighton or Manchester, do some thieving, and then post their goods back to London. Apparently, no cops think to check a random suitcase for loot. The rise of the department store makes their capers that much easier to pull off. They're bigger than a dress shop, busier, easier to get lost in, and the privacy they try to afford their female shoppers make it that much easier to discreetly shove something shiny down the front of a dress. Detective John Capstick describes them this way. "Dressed to kill, those girls would descend on a West End store like a swarm of locusts. They would roll up in taxis and chauffeur-driven limousines and practically clean the place out inside an hour." One of the keys to their success is teamwork. When aiming to steal a 2,000-pound mink coat in the middle of a Manchester department store, one gang member shoves a cushion under her shirt so she looks like she's pregnant, then faints in order to distract the shop workers. While those attendants try to revive her, her friends snatch the mink with no one the wiser. Another secret is their undergarments. They wear what are called grafters' bloomers or shoplifters' pockets. Often these are hooks sewn into petticoats, huge hidden pockets, and belts with hidden sacks. Slits in their dresses make it easy enough to slip something precious into their hidden treasure sacks. One gang member manages to hide 14 yards of silk in such a pocket in 1894. As Frederick Wensley, the constable who spends a lot of time trying to thwart these ladies, writes, "They wore big, expensive fur coats and elastic bags under their skirts, and members of the gang would distract attention while another would shovel in expensive articles and, still covered by her confederates, walk out of the place, hail a taxicab, and so get away." They also make sure to take advantage of society's feelings about a woman's body and the notion of female modesty. Very few shopkeepers, even the suspicious ones, are going to look for stolen goods under a shopper's skirts. Excuse me? But shoplifting can be a risky occupation. If these women are caught, they could be sentenced to between 3 and 12 months hard labor, or 3 years in prison. Lucy Iron, a needlewoman, is sentenced to 18 months in jail for stealing not so much: a roll of tape, a hair ornament, 2 tins of creme de menthe, 2 hats, 2 pairs of shoes, a writing pad, and, oh yeah, 3 collars from Selfridges. As one judge says during a lady hoister's trial, "Society must be protected against such women as the prisoners, and if they came before him again, he would send them to penal servitude." Despite that, many of the 40 Elephants gang members are long-timers. Ada Wellman, convicted of shoplifting from the Army and Navy stores in 1921, is still an active member of the gang 18 years later, when she is jailed for 4 months for another crime. Though the gang had long been successful, it really only came to its height under the leadership of Maggie Hughes and Alice Diamond. Born in 1896 in Southwark as Alice Elizabeth Black, she was surrounded by criminality. In fact, her dad was once arrested for assaulting the son of the Lord Mayor of London after punching his head through a pane of glass. Diamond becomes the 40 Thieves' queen around 1916 at just 20 years of age. Alice is such a criminal mastermind that the police take to calling her the cleverest of thieves. She rules the gang like a general, dividing it into groups so they can raid a series of shops across the city at the same time. Her network grows strong enough that they have territories across London. Alice takes to sending them lists of high-end targets to hit, taking a percentage of every job they pull off. She isn't afraid to diversify, getting some of her gang members false credentials so they can get jobs as housemaids in the city's richest houses, then disappear into the night with the silver. It's said she gained her nickname, Diamond Annie, because she has such a fierce punch, made lethal by her many shiny rings. "She was the biggest woman you ever did see," said one of the hoisters who apprenticed under her, "with diamond rings on her fingers and fox furs around her neck. I thought she looked the business." Part of Alice's success is that she sets up a code of conduct for her girls. No drinking the night before a job, no wearing stolen goods around town, no snitching on other members if they're arrested. And she doesn't shy away from taking advantage of changing times. For example, in the 1920s, when skirts start getting shorter, leaving fewer places to hide stolen goods, she starts planning bolder raids. Multiple women will enter a department store at several entrances, quickly grab what they can, then make a run for it. She makes sure that all her girls use fast cars in their getaways, making it more likely that they'll get away clean. And they did a frightening amount of the time. Diamond and Hughes guard their territory fiercely. If anyone else tries to steal on their turf, they demand a percentage of the takings. They also arrange beatings and even kidnappings until any money owed them is paid. They also have no qualms about extorting money from any men who try to seduce them. They tend to pay up, because otherwise the 40 elephants will tattle to their wives. Fair enough. And try as they might, the police have little power over the gang, and particularly its leaders. When Alice is convicted for an attack on a male gang member who crosses her in 1925, she just keeps on running things from behind bars. But that stint in the clink does eventually end her career, it seems. And while her fame and her gangs doesn't last forever, their legend has echoed through the years. Until next time. Are you in love with this episode? I hope so. You'll find many more like it over on my Patreon, where I'm currently publishing 2 fresh bonus episodes a month. Patrons get all sorts of goodies, and they really help to keep the show going. To find out more, have a look at the show notes or go to my website, theexploresspodcast.com, and click on Become a Patron.